Welcome back to Talent Talks. This is Matt Eagle, CEO of Eagle AI Agency. If you've been following along, I've been interviewing a lot of the leaders in the staffing industry, more mid-level size businesses, talking about AI, but also just talking about the industry as a whole. And so I'm super excited to have Edward on the call. This is Edward Cruz from Crusader Advanced Recruiting Solutions. Welcome on. I'm excited to chat with you. So if you can just introduce yourself, maybe your capabilities, things that you focus on specifically as a business, and then we'll jump right in.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Matt. It's a pleasure to meet everyone. I've been in the business now for about 20 plus years, placing top tier professional and executive talent. Um, People always ask me about what are my sectors, and our sector depth is across technology, pharmaceuticals, private equity, manufacturing, clean energy, consumer goods, and financial services. Some fun facts about me. I'm a coach, I'm an advisor, I'm a thought leader focused on AI driven hiring, organizational development, and things that fall into the human side of transformation. Um, my background cuts across, if you look at my career, I spent time in contingency, executive search, about 12 years in executive search and RPO. I then went in house, became a global lead for executive search for one of the largest marketing media management companies in the world. And we're working into our fourth year into Crusader Advanced Recruiting Solutions. But again, it's all about a relationship first approach and making sure you got that right operational rigor. But that's a little bit about me and a little bit about the firm. Um, so yeah,
That's
so
awesome. If you can, because obviously you got a lot of years of experience. In the last 18 to 24 months, what kind of shifts have you seen in hiring that you think have been pretty noticeable?
yeah, I think in the last couple of years, it's been a very tricky economy.
Hmm.
I think recruiters are spending a lot of time chasing unqualified or misaligned candidates. There's a lot of manual processes that AI is really solving in terms of automation. I still think there's a little too much time spent on low value tasks instead of high value conversations.
Mm.
I think some of the biggest bottlenecks that you see are slow client feedback loops, or unclear role definitions up front. There's a lot of internal misalignment on
Mhm.
what good looks like, right?
Mhm.
And I think if you don't get the alignment early, everything downstream tends to break.
Yep.
Um, I think that recruitment teams, there's a gap in staffing, just sales today as well, right? I think
Yeah.
most firms are still operating in a transactional mindset where they're chasing jobs instead of building partnerships.
Mhm.
And I think there's real opportunity in shifting from, what roles can I fill to something that looks like how do I develop or how do I help this company build a better team over time, right?
Mhm.
And I think as a search firm, leader, I think it's really about balancing long term versus short term.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, short term placements drive revenue, but long term relationships drive sustainability, right?
Mhm.
And I think the key is consistency, staying in touch even when you're not actively working on a role, right?
Mhm.
I think in the industry, there are a lot of missed opportunities. There's poor follow up. There's a lack of nurturing warm relationships and not leveraging existing networks, deeply enough. I think a lot of firms are just sitting on value when they're not activating. That makes sense.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. And it comes down to maybe incentive of growth, right? How they're paid, what does a company value based off how they're getting paid. Salespeople are going to do what salespeople are paid to do, right? So if it's close deals, you'll get paid for that. If it's build relationships, you'll get paid for that, and that's what they'll do. But you talked about bottlenecks, and you're talking about, obviously front end going downstream. Where have you seen some solutions that you've seen that have been very helpful to eliminating those bottlenecks, and then obviously affecting downstream?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the solutions, for example, lead generation, right?
Right.
Branding, marketing, um, some of the strongest channels that you can activate around some of those bottlenecks are, you know, there could be success around direct outreach, right? When it's done thoughtfully,
Mhm.
referrals, existing client relationships, and I think as a salesperson or someone that's doing client acquisition, you want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on underperforming channels, right? You want to stay away from things like generic email campaigns or non-differentiated messaging. I think brand visibility is very important.
Mhm.
Brand is becoming very critical.
Yeah, absolutely.
Clients want to work with firms that they trust before the conversation even starts, right?
Mhm.
Um, and some of the industry gaps that I have seen, and just from a marketing perspective, um, I don't think a lot of firms tell their story well. I think they don't differentiate. And I think a lot of the firms sound the same, right?
Yeah.
There's real opportunity um, to stand out, although, authenticity, um, I think authenticity is sort of lacking.
Mhm.
And, I think outbound still works, but it has to be personalized, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think inbound is growing, especially for firms that invest in brand and content. So those are some of the solutions. Um, I think that AI and technology, there's opportunity there. When you look at AI and technology, I mean, what's the impact of AI and technology today? Well, what I've seen, AI is dramatically improving sourcing, data visibility, right? Workflow efficiency. Um, Companies really need to understand how they're leveraging AI. Um, we're using AI to identify high fit candidates faster, automate repetitive workflows, um, improve pipeline insights. It really allows us to focus more on relationships and decision making. And I think there are a lot of firms where I guess the industry is really ripe for automation, especially the recruitment space. You could do a lot of initial sourcing, a lot of outreach sequencing, pipeline tracking. And I think in the industry, there are some misconceptions as well. And I think some of the one of the biggest misconceptions is that AI can replace the human judgment piece.
Yeah.
And bottom line is that it can't, right? AI cannot replace things like trust,
Mhm.
right? Relationship building or understanding motivation, right?
Yeah.
Recruiting is still fundamentally human,
Yeah.
right?
That's
So
honestly, that's
there's a whole
that
future of staffing. Go ahead.
yeah, it's, that's pretty much a consensus. I think I've done 24 of these, and that's the main focus people say is you can't replace relationship, but you increase the quality of conversation based off of what you're focusing on, whether it's revenue generating activity or whether it's just doing admin work and then trying to fit in the BD as you go, right? Which can be a huge issue, right? And I wanted to go back to that brand visibility that you were talking about, right? What do you think are some ways that people can really differentiate themselves? Obviously, there's a lot of people out there who's because I think staffing's a low barrier of entry, but to be successful, it actually takes a lot of effort. What do you think is the most impactful way to have a different brand than others? Or how do you differentiate? What do you think?
Yeah, I think some of the things that we have done, and what I've built within the business. For example, what makes Crusader different? And I'll share, a little bit with the world here. Um, I think that we've initiated a hybrid search model where we take the rigor of executive search, um, and we combine that with recruiting agility, right? Flexible engagement structures, um, leveraging our human expertise with AI driven sourcing.
Mhm.
Um, we've got a proprietary, efficiency to impact process, and we can talk a little bit about that if you want to learn more about that. We get more time.
Yeah, why not? I
Um,
love that.
yeah. Um, I mean, it's really identifying, what that oversight is, and those high touch um, impact points to drive efficiency and effectiveness.
Mhm,
Um, for example, recently I put the business through. We just got our business certified as a platinum supplier um, through one of our partners called Avanzando, and our business has now achieved platinum supplier status, and it's the highest tier of supplier recognition for operational excellence, quality, performance, enterprise procurement, right? And a lot of top, I would say, Fortune 500 companies really look for that. It's not a common certification amongst recruitment firms, but we have it. And I saw it as a major differentiator to help organizations scale smarter and faster. Um, but there are a lot of pieces that go into that. And, we partner with a lot of different firms that are either startups or founder led businesses, mid market, privately held companies, or even established enterprises like that fall within that Fortune 500 space.
mhm.
And through this platinum certification, we've put our business through that rigor that will enable us to deliver consistently at a high quality. Um, but again, um, our search firm owners, our search firms looking at those attributes that are going to elevate and really differentiate their business. I know that we've taken a major, you know, emphasis around that.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so
And then you said sales gap, right? So can you dive a little bit deeper on what that sales gap looks like for you? Or what have you seen in the market at least? So I know we talked about being able to differentiate when to do outreach that's more customized, that's authentic, but also having inbound for marketing as well as having a brand that's really differentiated itself from its others. Can you dive a little bit deeper of like maybe what people are missing in their BD management?
yeah, I think that a lot of firms don't tell their story well,
Mm,
right? Um, as I was saying before,
yeah.
they sound the same, and I still think that there is a level of outbound that still works, but it really has to be personalized. And if you're going to initiate a strategy that leverages AI, you've got to personalize it, and you have to add the human element, right?
Hmm.
It has to be done thoughtfully, cannot be generic, and you have to be what you emphasize within your brand. Um, it can't be totally different. And then you put out a message to a potential client, and then they go to your website and it just doesn't align, right? Everything really has to align. Your content, your marketing, your website, your LinkedIn, what's your digital footprint look like, right? It's all interconnected at the end of the
Hmm.
day. Um, and I think we have to start paying attention to what that digital footprint actually is. I think clients are much smarter, and they take the time, at least some of the clients that we work with, they take the time to really dig into the brand.
Mhm,
Um, and it's a constant evolving process, right? I don't think it's ever done. Um, I think what may be relevant today in 6 months might change.
mhm. Absolutely. I 100% agree. I love every single point that you made there. It really sounds like you're implementing a lot of this stuff and seeing the success from it too as well. Customization of AI, being able to build a differentiating factor. I think you're absolutely right about the customer as well. Staffing's been around for over 100 years now. Everybody knows what a staffing firm is. Everybody understands what it does, but what makes you different, right? I think when I was, doing account management work in staffing, that was the first thing they asked. They said, "What makes you different?" Right? And I think that's a huge part of it. Can we go back and you said something I thought was super important, staying in touch to build long-term sustainability with customers, right? How have you kind of mastered that engagement with customers to get better relationship building long term?
Bottom line, and I don't want to sound cliche, I think it's about great work. I think it's about delivering at a high quality. Um, I think if, by identifying great talent and solving problems and delivering solutions, is all part of it, right? Um, uh, there's no lightning in a bottle, but the bottom line is that our clients look for us to solve complex issues, hiring problems, issues that they may be having in the process, or identifying a specific talent. Um, and I think we have built a model that delivers consistently, right? Um, I like to say that what makes us different is simple. We don't operate like a traditional staffing firm or recruiting firm. We act as a true partner embedded in the business, where we bring the speed and the execution of a professional recruiting um, entity with the precision and the discipline of executive search,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So it's combining those two worlds,
Yeah.
right? Um, some folks have said to me, Ed, you can't do both, right? And I beg to differ. I think you can deliver speed without leaving quality behind. I think you can do both. I
Yeah, for
think you could
sure.
deliver quality. I think we're structured to handle both.
Mhm.
Um, whether if it's a critical leadership role or whether if it's high volume hiring, right? With the same level of rigor that you apply. And I think that's rare, right? I think that's rare where most firms are built for, in one lane. We can combine both and still deliver at a very high level of quality. And then the relationship first approach, um, we don't chase transactions, right? We build partnerships. And that means understanding the business, not just the job description. What's the compelling story behind it? What's the story behind the hiring manager? I mean, you've got to dig in a little bit deeper. Um, and then what AI really helps us do, and what I've built here, I built a framework that really ensures the consistency in how we deliver, right? We connect fast, we leverage access, we understand the role deeply, um, we target top talent, we curate with care, and we hire with confidence. And it removes the guesswork, right?
Mhm.
And really replaces it with um, effectiveness and execution.
Yeah,
Um,
amazing.
and that all captures, the quality piece that fits into that recipe of what quality is. Um, like I said, most firms will fill roles. We build teams, and we do it with speed, precision, um, and I would say overall we're very effective in what we do.
Yeah, that's
Um,
amazing. And so my last question, and then I'll kind of wrap it up. You've talked about AI a few times. What does your journey look like in AI? Like, how did you start leveraging AI? What was the first methods of how you tested and tried AI? What have you done so far? And then how far do you want to go with AI as it continues to evolve?
You know, it's a great question because it feels like I've been looking at so many different AI tools. Um, it's a process that I do every day, and
Mhm,
I am now using AI maybe 80% of the time, 75, 80% of the time within my business.
mhm,
Um, the AI journey, frankly, um, it didn't start with technology. I think it started, with a question: how do we become a more effective without losing the human side of what we do? Right. And early on, I saw AI as a way to eliminate noise.
mhm,
Right. You've got manual sourcing, repetitive outreach, disconnected workflows. But over time, it's really become something more strategic. Um, Today, we use AI to, surface better talent faster, improve decision making, with data, um, create more consistency across our process. And I think AI doesn't replace what I don't think AI replaces what we do. It amplifies it, right?
mhm.
And I think it gives us more time to focus on relationships, trust, and truly understand people, which is where the real value is from my perspective, right? I
Yeah,
think the real
absolutely.
value is in the relationships. And I think with AI, if you're curious, if you explore tools, you test tools, you look at different sourcing platforms, you understand what AI could actually do versus the hype, and you kind of dig through that. I think I think everyone has to be on that kind of journey. But I do think that we're at a point where integrating AI into workflows, search, outreach, pipeline management, you could really drive efficiency behind those things, right?
Mhm,
And then you can use AI to enhance decision making, improve quality of hire, create a repeatable systems. Um, Leveraging AI is not just about the tool, right? I think it should be part of how at least for Crusader, it's we've looked at it as how we scale, how we differentiate, how we deliver better outcomes for clients.
mm.
Um, AI hasn't changed what we do; it's changed how well we can do it.
Amen.
Right?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And I love your approach. Most teams, as they grow bigger, they actually have what they call an AI assessment team, where their sole purpose is to test, try new AI tools, and then demonstrate those tools within the company monthly, if not weekly, to continue to drive. Because each company has its own personality, right? Each company has its own way of doing something. Not every AI tool is going to work for you specifically, right? But that I love the way you did it. You curated it, understanding that you have a brand and you got a purpose and you got your own section, and you used AI to amplify that, right? You didn't change your model for AI, you changed AI for your model, which I think is great. And then the last thing is just, and I appreciate all this super insightful conversation. I think you've hit everything on the head perfectly. My last question is one, like, what would you tell yourself when you first started your business, that would be a piece of advice that you knew that would have helped you now, right? What would that be?
Wow. Um, as an entrepreneur, business owners, and being in a room with other business owners, um, I would if I were to say something to myself, I guess right at the beginning, would be to get the right people around you. Um, in the end, the journey doesn't have to be. Sometimes when you start out as a solopreneur, um, and then you get to a point where you're building and scaling. It's important to have the right people around you, right?
Hmm.
When that scale starts to happen, when more clients start to step forward and want you to be part of their growth. And I would say that exploring, for me at least, exploring peers and other colleagues to be on the journey with you, right? Um, because I think owners are all looking at some of the same challenges. How do they acquire? They're looking at client acquisition. They're looking at AI tools. They're looking at, you know, building, building a better service. I think those are things that, they come with the territory, and it's been evolving with new tech that's been coming in. Um, but in the end, I think if I could look back, it's about the people you surround yourself with,
Mm,
whether if it's family, mentors, coaches. Um, Looking at that piece is something that, I would tell my earlier self,
mm.
um, 100%.
That's amazing. Well, Edward, how can people find you? Let's say they want to connect. Is LinkedIn the best way? Like, where can they connect with you the best?
Yeah, I mean, connecting with me is, I try to make it fairly easy. I mean, you find me on LinkedIn. We have our website, crusaderrecruiting.com. Um, we've got a number of podcasts that we run as well, that we're going live with. And, you know, frankly, I mean, you know, I tend to be, I try to be as accessible as possible. If you're interested, or anyone that's watching this podcast is interested in connecting with our service or myself for a discussion around any of the topics that we've covered today, just ping me on LinkedIn and I'd be happy to jump on for a call. Um, I try to make myself as accessible as possible,
Amazing, man.
especially the folks that either just want to talk, learn a little, talk about the business, or just like this, or jump on a podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the easiest ways for people to understand who you are. Get a feel for you too as well, pretty easily, and be able to do some research too as well. So, Edward, thank you so much for jumping on. Very insightful. I didn't need to say too much. You said it all, which was amazing. You took a lot of my one-liners I'd like to say too as well. So, appreciate you jumping on the call, and yeah, keep us posted on this podcast. I would love to join one of those if it's possible.
Amazing, Matthew. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, and thank you for the invite, and thank you for having me on.
Awesome.